Hey everyone, and welcome to the last Retort with GVB Studios. As always, I'm Chris Wiggins. Kelly is out, but we brought back a favorite of yours. You know him, HB News movie critic, also the self-proclaimed cinema assassin, and the very irascible Chris Hill. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming back. It's always great to talk and beat you in a debate. So I'm extremely excited because we have a lot we got to cover.
I don't remember you first beating me in a debate, but I'm happy to give you defeat number 2.
All right, well, check this out. And I know that you're a big UFC fan, as am I. But so recently, Khabib has threatened to quit if any of his teammates are punished for the brawl that occurred after his fight with Conor McGregor. In it, Khabib has claimed that McGregor attacked his family, his race, his religion. Also, that someone in McGregor's camp, that being Dylan Dennis, allegedly called him a Muslim rat. So what should Dana White and the UFC do about all this?
Well, based on the precedent of fighting after the bell that was done with Josh Koscheck and Paul Daly, where Paul Daly sucker punched Koscheck and he got booted out, get rid of Khabib, or you fine him such an extravagant amount that he learns that you handle your business in the octagon. You don't leap over it like you're Randy Savage and jump off the top turnbuckle and try and attack somebody.
Look, Chris Hill, once again, all right, this is why I love having you on, all right, but it's also painstakingly obvious you just don't understand business. Why in the world would he go and suspend somebody who is probably going to become a big box office draw with a move like this, number one, and number two, someone who went and just beat down the golden boy, that being Conor McGregor? The fact of the matter is, that's the very first thing. So Dana White should realize what the optics of this look like. I think it's safe to say that we all know what to expect from Conor McGregor. You're going to get some dog whistling, a little bit of scant racial bigotry in sort of the way that his camp approaches things, right? If he were to go and say, you know what, I gave a very, very light punishment to Conor McGregor for his criminal activities, I might add you with that bus, right? When he threw the guardrail, he gave him a very, very, very light punishment, like a slap on the wrist, if you will. And for him to go and say, you know what, a guy who's been attacked and where Conor camp has attempted to maim him and then has resorted to the extremely disgusting level of bigotry that you'd expect this out of the president of the United States, all right? And for him to suspend that person when he's going to defend the honor of his country, defend the honor of his religion and his family, for them to suspend that would be absolutely ridiculous. I'm actually appalled by the fact that you think that sort of the previous precedent that you mentioned was within similar vein. I don't think so. He needs to focus on business. And let's be honest, the UFC has been going through some struggles lately in terms of sort of maintaining their star appeal. This right here has blockbuster all over it. It gets you fight number 2 as well.
I will give you that it gives you fight number 2, and really this is the best thing for the UFC, given that Khabib is probably one of the dullest people that you could have hold a belt.
Not even. No, the fact that okay. Let's not.
He can't make it to fights multiple times. But first, more importantly, the bus incident did not happen during an event.
Okay, okay, and maybe
Khabib could have gotten out of the bus, but he chose to hide in the back.
He was not hiding. They were en route to somewhere, and then this disgusting thug, Conor McGregor, went and tried to attack him and try to injure somebody, throwing a guardrail and everything. When you go and compare Khabib to Randy Savage and everything, where Conor McGregor thinks he's the Irish Stone Cold Steve Austin, throwing guardrails, chairs, sledgehammers, rattlesnakes, and all this good stuff, or so that's an issue. That is a criminal act. He went and attacked people. Huh?
You are right. I should not compare him to Randy Savage. The Macho Man had entertainment value. Khabib lacks that, except for his ring entrance wearing the ridiculous hat. But has anybody asked why did they attack the bus? That would be
clear racism.
Or it was the fact that Khabib's people went and were basically assaulting one of Conor's teammates.
Absolutely
and that was
false.
retaliation.
That absolutely false. They cornered him and did nothing. They cornered him. Did Conor McGregor tell you that he went and that Khabib went and assaulted him? Number one, what I find it odd that you think that this has a lot of similarities between what's that Tupac and Orlando Anderson outside the Tyson Bruce Seldon fight, and okay, no, so that's basically what Conor is claiming happened. Like, oh, he went and assaulted one of my buddies and everything, and then I went and saw him out at this other location, so I decided to attack him. All right, what I've read is that Conor claims that someone in his camp was attacked. However, what multiple witnesses have said is that Khabib and his group may perhaps confronted him without physical altercations to have occurred, and then Conor, not having a big brain, decided that meant that it was an assault, and then he thought, okay, you know what, I'll go play like that little ape or lizard from that movie Rampage, and I'll go and start attacking everything, inanimate objects like a bus and a building and things like that.
At any point, do you realize that threat and intimidation, a group around one person, is an assault?
Did he get injured? Is that
okay? How about this? How about we call it what it is? Battery. He was threatened and intimidation took place, and Conor was just being a gentleman, and he was defending his friend's honor, and Khabib was scared and couldn't get out of the bus.
Maybe Khabib was following protocol. Maybe Khabib was following protocol and being a great citizen and someone who really, really, really respects the sanctity of the sport. And then this very aggressive, and let's be honest, Conor McGregor acts ghetto.
Okay, the sanctity of the sport. I think the sanctity of the sport.
He wanted to uphold the paper. He wanted to uphold the pay-per-view that was coming, and so he didn't want to. Yeah, he didn't want to give people free. Something to watch for free. He knew that they were going to square off, so he wanted to decide, look, let's go ahead and give the viewers what they want to see instead of both of them getting injured. See, Conor showed a lack of respect a lack of respect for the sport, and showed a complete disregard as it related to the fight, and that's why he acted out of sort. Now, Dana White did not come down heavy-handed at all on Conor McGregor, and he shouldn't do that for Khabib. Also, I think that Dana should be telling the Conor camp to go ahead and provide a very, very thorough and thoughtful apology for the attacks that they've made towards the religion of Islam and towards I think you pronounce it Nurmagomedov. Am I correct?
Close enough.
Okay. So apology should be made to the religion and to Khabib's family as well. That no punishments. I don't want to say let's let this bygones be bygones. I know that we want to draw parallels between the Ron Artest, the Malice at the Palace, and things of that regard. That's different. It's basketball. You expect to eat popcorn and watch a guy shoot a jump shot, right? These are people at a fight, all close, grab it on the gate and everything, and it was to attack a member of a very racist member, I might add you, of the McGregor camp. No suspension, no type of repercussions. Maybe an apology to the fans is fair.
Probably not. If you're going to compare it to Artest got what? A cup of ice thrown at him. This guy got some words thrown at him. You're a fighter.
Racist words. Racist. A Muslim rat. Do you think it's acceptable for someone within the fight and within a fighter's camp to go and call his opponent a Muslim rat or anything else that denotes disparagement towards his religious ideology?
Well, that's not racism.
Okay, it is bigoted. Bigoted. Sorry, bigoted. Okay, bigoted.
Well, I agree. He's a bigoted
also racist
man,
too.
Okay. Regardless, from my understanding, they signed a document that would say we are going to fight here. They did not sign anything that said words hurt more than fists. The fact that he had to go and turn it into something that like a petulant child who can't keep his shit together long enough to get the belt. No, he doesn't deserve it. Is Conor, does he act ghetto? Yeah. Is he taking it, his shtick a little bit over the top? Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, this is the first time Khabib's gotten pay-per-view points. And he owes all of that money he's getting from Conor, because without Conor going to the bus, without Conor running his mouth, nobody cares about this fight except for Conor. Nobody, like the Khabib camp, except for people that were trying to, that were upset because the bad words hurt him so much. Yeah, it's not.
I love how we mitigate what was said into just bad words, though. The Conor camp is a group that's so he's called Floyd Mayweather boy, racial undertones, when discussing Rocky III and the new training partners, which was Apollo Creed's camp. He called them. He said, "Is that the movie where Rocky went to go train in the gym with all those monkeys?" And then someone in his camp called Khabib a Muslim rat. But yeah, all right, bad words.
Yeah, they're bad words. Do I agree with them? Absolutely not. But I'm not in the position to, be the main event for one of the top 3 UFC pay-per-views ever. And when the fight was over, before Khabib went and lost it, Conor did go and say that it was all business, and Khabib still went and lost it, defending the sport that he loved so much by going aerial.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to leave it at that, because I know you have something very, very interesting that you want to tell us about. So moving on. Go ahead.
Yeah, with Weinstein's case involving, I know you love this topic, involving
the human cold shower, Harvey Weinstein. Go ahead.
So the case had a setback. There was some accusations of witness tampering. Lucia admitted to her friend that it was she was voluntarily providing oral sex to Harvey for an acting role. What do you think this means for the other cases that are against Mr. Weinstein?
Yeah, definitely. So, I've been on record in making sure that I don't conflate cases upon cases. So in regards to this, I think that this has a lot of bearing, and I think that it's really damaging from a public support standpoint. And I believe so. With this case being dismissed, I know that would lead people to say, "Oh, okay, well, maybe this is to use your word, precedence that there's some type of falsehoods in all the other different cases." I don't believe that for a second, and I don't think that this has any bearing. Harvey Weinstein is a serial piece of crap, just in general. Do I think that? I don't, without me knowing sort of who Lucia, Ms. Evans, rather, without knowing who Ms. Evans went and had supposedly told this information to or so, don't know what her condition was. Do I believe that Harvey has some guilt in that? I certainly do. That case is dismissed, so we won't belabor that. But in regards to these other cases, the things against him are extremely damning. It becomes at a level where it's like Bill Cosby, where after you get to 50 or 60 people, you got to think, okay, that many people are willing to go on record and provide these accusations. There has to be some truthhood, and you want to say at least the majority of it. So I don't think that this says anything about the other cases.
So you don't think that, one, this is a clearly a casting couch situation, that the others might be a similar situation? You don't think that Asia Argento, who has already was one of the first people in the movement who also happened to pay hush money for having sexual relations with a 17-year-old, it almost seems to me like, yes, Harvey is a gross, disgusting pig of a man. I wouldn't want anything to do with him. However, I'm starting to wonder how much of this was maybe his MO is just, you have to do something for me to do something for you. And how much of that is their willingness to, degrade themselves in some manner for their careers?
So So in regards to that, without commenting on the Ms. Argento situation, if you take these individual cases that are actually being filed, and then you actually look at other statements which have been made sort of against Mr. Weinstein that aren't necessarily being not being judged or anything and not being adjudicated. You would look and you'd say, when there's people like Salma Hayek explaining how she had to go and work to get something greenlit because he basically made it so, if you want to get this, you want this production, we're gonna have to engage in sexual relations. You look at things such as the Gwyneth Paltrow and Brad Pitt going to confront him. None of that being debunked. Or whether that's Angelina Jolie and countless others that have gone out on record. Now, look, if you want to say that, hey, this all started to come out during the spirit of the movement the spirit of the movement, that's completely fine. The fact of the matter is, people are willing to go. These are people who are willing to go public and say that these kind of things happen. Now, what that means for the actual cases that he's being tried, in court for, yes, perhaps there's a black eye due to the Miss Argento, sort of the revelations about the Miss Argento and with Miss Evans or so. But I don't think that we can discount the fact that those two, or even if there's like two more come up, right? There are allegations after allegations about him. And like you and I both saying that he's, I think he's disgusting. You obviously think that he's disgusting as well. He is getting a fair due process. Like, he's not being charged for every single allegation that's being brought against him. I just think that there is enough there, right? Whether we believe that these women just wanted to get something out of him and then didn't get what they want and decided to become disgruntled or so. I happen to believe that that's probably a minority of the case. Of the cases. And in that regard, we don't even know how many times, if just because maybe one time they voluntarily agreed to it, doesn't mean that he didn't go later on and say, hey, you know what? Hey, I'll get this. Let me grab you and force you to. So I don't want to repeat sort of the specifics of what's being said, but we don't know if there are other times when he's gone and tried to force himself upon them.
So I guess to me, the difference between Weinstein and Bill Cosby is Bill Cosby, slipped them a Quaalude and raped women while they were unconscious.
Absolutely grotesque and terrible.
Just one of the most vile things that could possibly be done. Weinstein, to me, seems like he is a vile human who lives by a code where, unless you do some form of sexual favor for me, I'm not going to do anything to help your career, and I'm not going to go out of my way to do anything. Basically using sex as a form of currency to get what he wants. I don't agree with what he does. I just don't know if that's illegal. If that is something that is criminal to say, hey, if you don't do this, I'm not going to do this for you.
Well, okay, that is definitely one way to. Perhaps that's not illegal. But one way to look at it is look at the power construct that he is sort of creating, where he goes, I've got them. Let's say hypothetically that perhaps they willingly engage in an act with them. That's one thing, right? That is not sort of the precedent. I hate that we keep using this word, right? But that doesn't establish precedence that every other interaction that he has with them. And what I am pontificating a tad bit, and to believe that a man with that type of power thinks that I've got somebody hooked on it in order to get a role or so. I'm pretty sure after that he'd start to get this feeling of invincibility that, you know what? I can, even when she does not want it, I can force myself upon it. That I believe 100%.
That's conjecture.
Okay, yes, it is. It is. Okay, first of all, this is a debate show. Of course, it's conjecture. It is conjecture, and I did say I was pontificating. But the fact of the matter is, it is very easy to believe that those who feel an aura of power of I've gotten someone to do this. Okay, and I can come onto them at any point. and look, and we're forgetting the simple fact that he could ask her to go in a room or something like that and say, hey, yada yada, I'll give you more, I'll help make sure you get more lines or something like that if you do this, and then she says no, and then he like grabs her, and then she says no, maybe faintly or something like that, with any level of trepidation, and then he still forces himself upon her. That's still rape, right? Even if she doesn't, even if they're in some room and she doesn't say no, and he just grabs and forces her, she's not consenting. Like, it's consent when she decides that it's consent, not just him going and forcing himself on her.
So if she got the role, it would be consent?
What do you mean? Wait, that's not
what I'm
saying.
She didn't get the part or the money that she thought, so then it became non-consensual after the fact.
Here's the fact of the matter is,
or maybe for the power, wouldn't it be more powerful to constantly do this to new people, since it sounds like, this piece of garbage did it to every single person.
Yeah, he did do it. Yeah.
I just don't know. All I'm saying is I don't know if I think what he did was horrible. I think it's wrong. I just don't know if what he did constitutes, a criminal act. I don't have enough facts on that.
Yeah.
And, quite honestly, I mean, he's one of the ugliest men I've ever seen.
I agree with that.
When the troll, invites you into the room, regardless of career, just run. Like, that's just gross. But, I've talked about your friend Harvey long enough. He's quite honestly not really worth my time.
Yeah.
Right now, I really need to get your take on The Rock.
The smell.
Yeah, now he's going to be playing John Henry, a quite popular African-American folk hero that you might know of. And he's got a ton of Twitter backlash. And much of this has to do with the buttery smooth skin complexion and the questions around his activeness in African-American endeavors. Is this an overreaction?
Yeah, I'm going to actually say that, I don't think this is an overreaction. When you let me first start off by, I don't like folk heroes like Paul Bunyan and let's like Gulliver Travel and all that stuff. I really didn't like the John Henry. Really, the story was kind of really sad. His heart dies fighting a steam engine, and I think he may have been a slave or something like that. I read the sort of fable or what have you in some book when I was like alone in a car when I was younger, and I just didn't like the story. So I'm not tied necessarily to John Henry in any way. But with that being said, I think that this backlash does have a lot of there's a lot of credibility to it. The fact of the matter is, The Rock has taken his film career to the get more roles, and rightfully so. He has every right to do it. But he's taking the approach of I'm The Rock. I'm racially ambiguous. You look at movies like San Andreas has a white wife. White Italian wife, right? And then he has a pale daughter with blue eyes and everything. I'm not the most biologically adept person, but I've never seen that happen ever. Right, and that's neither here nor there. But The Rock has made a career out of non-blackness, if you will, and then now I feel like he's using it to sort of when it's convenient for him. So look. No actor has to be like an activist or stand up for things, but I think that there's a standard as it relates to black actors in terms of standing up for social issues. The Rock has noticeably been quiet on that. Even if you look at him from his wrestling career standpoint, what black wrestlers have become champions after The Rock? Where has he advocated or uplifted any of them? Who have been popular black popular black wrestlers? I don't see that. So there's a piece of him not necessarily being active within the community. I don't know what he does outside of what we see in public, so I can't comment on that. I can say that it appears as though he touts his Samoan heritage, which he has every right to do, touts his Samoan heritage a lot more than he does his African American heritage. And then when he's not touting that Samoan heritage, it is, hey, I'm the racially ambiguous guy. And I think that with so few roles being available to black actors, it does kind of come as like a stain that John Henry, the black folk hero, is being played by a guy who doesn't even like to be called or seemingly doesn't appear to like to be called or associated with blackness, basically.
Now, don't you think that a couple of years ago with the Academy Awards, and they were really complaining about the lack of any actors of color being nominated? Mm-hmm. And the argument that everybody says is we shouldn't be writing roles for white actors. They should just be roles for actors. So now suddenly the blackness is a part. So do they want it? Let's just have roles for everyone, and whoever we think can bring people to the theater is who we're going to go with, who's the best person for the project. Or do you want it the other way, where it's like, nope, this one's black, this one's white. Which do you want?
Okay,
because
well,
you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, the thing that you seem to be conveniently leaving out is the fact that John Henry is a black folk hero. So I believe that he's a slave. Are we under the impression that, let's call it what it is, that The Rock would be his character in the context of the John Henry universe, that he would be doing the kind of work that John Henry would be doing? Or would he be somewhere a little bit more cozy, if you will? That's a legit question.
Cozy.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so how about
The Rock as a slave? Does that really? Okay. What you're saying is that you want somebody that is 100% African American to really sell the blackness. No, that's not what I'm saying. You've gotten part of it. I never said that they need to be 100% African American. Okay. What I'm saying is that they should look and identify as black. No one's like, look. Granted, The Rock probably would have been treated differently because he's not like his daughter from San Andreas' skin tone, Alexandria Daddario, or anything like that. So maybe he would have been treated differently, but I don't think that they would have been like, hey, get out there in the field and go fight a steam engine or anything.
So I guess what I'm confused about here is it's an African American folktale, mm-hmm. and because he's half black, his skin color is lighter. So you don't feel that qualifies him to play John Henry. So I guess what I'm wondering is, how is it that when Halle Berry, whose skin is the same color as The Rock, wins
slightly darker,
you get to go and claim her as being completely black?
Let me ask you this: should The Rock be able to play T'Challa?
The Rock has the millions and millions.
Should he be able to play? Should he be able to play Kunta Kinte?
He should be able. Well, I mean,
see, this is a yes or no question. Okay, so he should be.
Yes,
he should be. Okay, and you would find it believable that a guy who's clearly not from Africa would play an African. And then sort of you're casting the aspersion between separate universes, fictional universes, and sort of the mantle that Halle Berry has taken. Now, if The Rock went up there and won an Academy Award, which would absolutely never happen unless like every other actor died. But if The Rock went and won an Academy Award and then talked about African American heritage due to his dad and everything, that's different than him not looking like, okay. It would be the equivalent of, like, he's 2 shades lighter than Hugh Jackman, basically. And would you accept Hugh Jackman playing John Henry?
I don't think blackface is really in order for the role, but I don't think that should disqualify The Rock from being able to play it. So now, knowing the story of John Henry, who goes up against, a steam engine, and he's manually, digging the hole or the tunnel or whatever it was. Tell me this: who's the other black actor that looks
Idris Elba?
big enough?
Idris Elba?
Oh, come on. Idris Elba's maybe a $1.85.
Okay, what
he
about?
Looks like
Huh?
no, who? Chadwick Boseman?
No,
like,
not Chadwick, but no, yeah. Look, yeah, you're like running out of people.
Black Panther?
Huh?
Michael
No.
B. Jordan. He's big.
What about Terry Crews?
Okay, they want people to see the movie. Terry Crews can't even keep a daytime TV show on. How is he going to get people to see the movie?
The fact of the matter is, there's the ability for actors. You should know this. You ain't in the best shape or whatever, so I wouldn't expect you to know this. But basically, the actors have the ability to actually put on muscle. Given the money that they have personal trainers. Chris Hemsworth was able to bulk up for Thor. All right, and I'm sorry for the below the belt shot and everything like that. But anyhow, they do have the opportunity to actually put on muscle and resemble John Henry. It is a lot more of a stretch, if you will, for someone like The Rock to be able to play a serious African-American slave black folk hero. That's just what it comes down to. It would be,
So what you're telling me is that it's easier to find someone that is 160 pounds soaking wet, get them to bulk up to be, 250 pounds to make the story look legitimate. It's easier to do that than to give The Rock a spray tan and a wig.
Okay, you just said that you didn't want to see blackface. That's the very first thing. The second thing is let's talk about.
It's not blackface if you're black and he's black.
Okay,
he's
but
it's
still blackface if you go out there and you try to spray tan yourself to become darker. All right, let's just like it would be whiteface if like
let's say he just goes and lays out in the sun.
Okay, all right, okay. Look, the fact of the matter is, The Rock is legit he's taking roles from a lot of other credible actors that can go ahead and do this, and that could sell it. Not necessarily sell it for sort of domestically. There's some that can sort of sell it domestically better. But he's taking people that would sell the role being.
Who exactly could sell this better?
Oh, Michael B. Jordan could do that for sure. And look, and also you mentioned him earlier.
How many besides Black Panther? How many movies has Michael B. Jordan been in that have been successful?
I think Creed actually made a ton of money.
Creed, okay.
It's also a black folk hero. Okay, hey, so also, it's a Netflix movie. It's a Netflix movie as well. So it's a Netflix movie. So in terms of, you're not necessarily looking at box office as it relates to you're not looking at it from a box office standpoint. You're looking at how many viewers Netflix can get out of it. I'm pretty sure if they put Michael B. Jordan or Chadwick Boseman in a Netflix movie about John Henry, it would do quite well with viewers. And it would be a lot more believable as well.
I mean, really, the only person that The Rock is taking this role from is Will Smith, because he's the only other person that has any drawing power that would bring new subscribers to Netflix.
You don't think Denzel Washington could play John? Sorry, yeah. Sorry, you don't think he could play John Henry?
How old was John Henry when this happened?
Well, he had a heart condition, so you got to figure he was up there.
I think if they want to use like the X-Men, type thing where they make him younger, Denzel could, but nobody wants to see him, telling a steam engine that they're the man. Like, that just isn't gonna. Nobody wants that.
You don't think LeBron James could play John Henry? He's starting to get some. He's starting to get a lot of acting roles.
Well, let's see how Space Jam 2 does. Before we start anointing King James as the next great actor. I just don't think, I think from a business standpoint, The Rock brings people to the seats. He is racially ambiguous, which makes him a global star because everyone can relate to him as opposed to just a small group that can relate to him. From a business standpoint, it makes sense. If you're wanting authenticity, he's probably not the person you go with, but if you want people to see the movie, he most certainly is, unless, you get Will to bulk up again, and he can do it. He's already proved that a terrible movie can still draw viewers to Netflix. He was in Bright.
Yeah. You're also going to see Bright too. Let's be honest. So speaking of global superstars, two of your favorite people. Basically, so President Trump recently had lunch and a meeting with Kanye West to discuss prison reform, gang violence prevention, and a few other things. Trump has praised Kanye and praised the uptake he has received in his poll numbers amongst African Americans after Kanye came out in support of him. Trump also met with Jared Kushner and Jim Brown in the same meeting. How do you feel about the president's efforts in regards to African American outreach?
I don't really think that this could be considered African American outreach. I mean, Kanye. I mean, this is pure publicity on Kanye's part. You want to talk about parallels with the Rock? People are up in arms. I believe T.I. referred to Kanye as a Sambo, which you probably should even bleep that out from me even saying that. Like, this isn't an outreach for a community. I mean, yeah, he talked to Jim Brown, but he's really just trying to use Kanye as, marketing to try and increase, a base that is non-existent with him because everybody, screams that he's racist. And that's all this is.
Okay. So first and foremost, let's get a few things straight. I think that Donald has attempted to make concerted efforts in the African community. Now, I know I'm going to get blasted for this, but that happens every show. But I'm not talking about sort of results or his prescriptions on those efforts are the best or have been successful. But I do think that in terms of there is a general willingness to find out what's happening and how we can help out the community. Now, I actually praise Kanye West. I know a lot of people don't like sort of that he's frolicking around with Trump and wearing the hat and everything. And I certainly don't like the comments that he has made in regards to the 13th Amendment and slavery and things like that. They've been completely incendiary. But I think that in terms of if he can help bridge the gap in terms of Kanye's well-adjusted in Chicago. Sorry, not well-adjusted. Let me not say that. I don't know that. But he's well-known, and he's of the Chicago community and has ties to the Chicago community. If he can help with things such as sort of the shooting crisis there, if he can help with things as far as income, right? I find that positive, and I appreciate that Trump is reaching out. So in regards to, I'm not going to address sort of T.I.'s comments or anything like that, but in regards to your comment is that he's just using Kanye West. Yeah, perhaps, but also on the same side, Kanye West is using the president as well. That's sort of just how politics works. You get something out of somebody else and they get something out of you, and that's going to continue to happen. And I think that what's more telling that this isn't strictly on publicity. He actually met with the great Jim Brown as well. Now, I know that Jim Brown he said some things I don't particularly care about, where he's mad that people are kneeling and they think that they should be standing for the flag. To each one's own. I personally don't agree with his sentiment there. However, I don't think that we can understate the power of Jim Brown meeting with Donald Trump, in the sense that Jim Brown, I'd venture to say, has done more for prison reform than anybody in the history of this country. And you certainly, when you think about the sort of gravitas and the magnitude that he has from a standpoint of how men look at Jim Brown, and then also from a standpoint of sort of what he means from a civil rights perspective and being one of the first athletes to become an activist. So I think that the combination of being able to partner with both of them, and look, this is far better than the Omarosas and who are those other people like Mike Tyson and like things like that, right? These are people that have a lot more gravitas and a lot less, I'd say, negative baggage than.
So didn't Kanye sue Lloyd's of London for his insurance policy when he had to cancel a leg of his tour because he was deemed mentally unfit. Do we really need to be getting advice from a guy who a year ago was put under such a high profile kind of nut hut lockdown? I don't know if we need our president getting information from him. I don't even know if he actually can make a coherent thought. He thinks the hat makes him feel like Superman. It just makes him ridiculous. And all this is from both sides is, I mean, Kanye got together with Kim because he loved how she marketed. All he's done since then is make bad music and make even worse, publicity stunts. From his fashion show with those Star Wars clothes that he had that nobody's ever worn except for the shoes.
And Chris Hill.
Now this. He's trying to do is get publicity, trying to make himself relevant. He's even been in so much debt from his failed fashion line. This just reeks of publicity on both people. But I just don't feel that, Jim Brown and the president, great. Somebody, mentally unstable president speaking to a mentally unstable rapper who is known now more for being in TMZ than he is for making good music. I don't think that's a meeting that needs to be televised, let alone happen in the first place. We should be utilizing the time of the president to actually benefit something. My understanding, there's a busy schedule, and talking to a guy fresh out of the nut hut about a hat that makes him feel like Superman probably isn't the best use of time.
Okay. So, but to my original question, like about your feelings towards the president's efforts towards African American outreach, do you feel that he's made some ground there and that some part of his heart is in it?
I think he's a businessman first, and he knows that he has to pander to other people outside of his base, and he thinks that people are going to jump on the Kanye bandwagon because he's a free thinker, as he calls himself. But anybody that is having discussions about the 13th Amendment really don't even think they need to be in DC. It's probably not a good idea, and nothing good's going to come from banning that. All this is Trump trying to get more constituents and Kanye trying to trick people into thinking he's relevant. It's just, it's a complete waste of time, and it's pitiful and pathetic way to try and get to a community that is already turning on Kanye, first over the amendment issue, then over a speech at the end of Saturday Night Live that they ended up cutting, and then now this. It's two disasters meeting together. It's like the superpowers of idiocracy.
All right. So do you feel that because I personally feel like even if you were to drop sort of Kanye, and I think that sort of, well, let me finish the sentence, right? If you sort of drop Kanye and just go with Jim Brown, I think that would be really helpful in this sort of uptick that he has in terms of numbers. I wouldn't see them necessarily disappearing if he were to drop Kanye. But I think the key thing is that the Kanye and Kardashian family, they've really been hammering home in terms of how that relates to prison reform. So I know they got the young, I believe she was an opioid user, so they had her sentence. I believe she got a pardon or so. If this legit is sort of Trump's way to say, hey, let's look at sort of how some of the drug laws have impacted the African American community, this is something I'm going to be on board with.
Yeah, I get that, figuring out the laws and getting people out of prison that shouldn't be in there, that aren't a danger to society. I just don't think we need to be taking our cues from an Armenian sex tape maker.
No, she's she's more than that. She's a businesswoman.
Okay.
Look, I know you have an issue with the Kanye and Kardashian family. Every time we have you on here, right, you're throwing stones at the throne for some reason. I don't know why that is, but yeah, she's a little bit more. I mean, she's more than just a sex tape maker.
Well, you're right. She has classed it up. Now she's just going and showing from the top down, like a little peekaboo shot into the top of her dress,
Oh,
so
good
she
Lord. Okay.
show off all of the necklace that she's wearing. She's not a good role model. She's not really anything, like she's a human meat sack that got famous from a sex tape, and she had to sign off on that. So, I mean, it is what it is. And Kanye, he's just all about marketing and gimmicks. And I think that's apparent in the music that he releases and the inflammatory statements that he says. And combined, they both should just go away, unless they're, I just don't think Kim should be the voice of Black America. I mean,
agree with that. That's fair.
I mean, just because you're with Kanye doesn't make you the person. And if you want to do the work, that's great. Don't do the photo ops. Don't do all of the publicity that goes with it. Do it behind the scenes because you're trying to do something good, not trying to increase your brand and your image, doing a look what I was able to do, because you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're not really trying to, make a situation better. You're just trying to put yourself over.
Okay. Yeah. All right, hold on. Sorry. I don't know how that, okay. So, dang it. All right.
And that's all Kanye's doing as well. The two of them and their whole deal with Trump.
All right. Hold on one second, Chris Hill. Hold on 1 second, Chris Hill. My phone went off during the very last part of your, how should we cut that? Gabe.
I would just have him kind of say that last thing.
Okay. Can you re-say the last? I turned my phone on silent. Rookie move by me. Could you say the very last 2 points that you had over again at crap? I don't know what part it went off during. Just after. Okay, so right after sort of Kim shouldn't be. You should do it. I was after the photo ops. After you mentioned the photo ops. Say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just find the whole thing to ring false. I mean, if Kim, who is pretending to be this person that cares and trying to do the people's work, that she should do it in the shadows. She should do it and not have everybody have to look at her and congratulate her for what she's doing. She's just trying to, get put over and have more people like her so she can sell more perfume. And Kanye's doing the exact same thing. He's doing his Vice playbook where he's trying to be outlandish and, I'm going to swear during a presidential meeting and I'm going to be ridiculous because any publicity is good publicity, and the entire thing rings false and it's embarrassment, quite actually.
All right. Well, we'll have to leave that one there because we got some serious things to talk about, so we can get some of this TMZ level stuff out of the discussion. Basically, so recent history and numbers on registered voters suggest that we're going to have low voter turnout these coming midterm elections this November. So basically, a report was released, and a lot of statistics show that for every 10 eligible voters, only 4 of them showed up in 2010 and 2014 midterm elections. That's according to Pew Research. That's obviously problematic, but why do you think this is the case, and what can we do to rectify this?
Well, I think the only people that are even showing up are people that are so disgruntled that they're making it their own personal movement to vote the opposite of whatever the administration is in. The fact of the matter is our options are terrible. The choices are always like the lesser of two evils. And when all the choices are terrible, you're just like, it doesn't matter. And you become disenfranchised with the whole voting system, and who's going to take a Tuesday off to go do something they don't care about when they don't have any good options?
Okay. Number one, that was one of the more pessimistic things I've heard just on this show, or just in my 30 years of life, in terms of I think that you're doing so many people a disservice with these statements about the lesser of two evils. Say what you will about only disgruntled people showing up. Yeah, the number, those are probably included in the 40% that show up, and the drop off from 60% down to 40% during midterm elections. So that very may well be true. But I think that sort of your comments, and that attitude, and I hear this from like a ton of voters, sort of that apathy of nothing's going to change and everyone's the same. There are so many great candidates that are running every single year, and particularly within these midterm election years where they're up against there's the ignorance of the fact that we didn't know that there's a midterm election because there's no presidential election, right? And then they're not showing up for governor races as well, right? So many of them are running that year and doing all they can in these times where there's so much apathy. So I think that sort of what you had just stated, and if that's the feeling of a lot of people, that is truly a disservice and really doesn't give us anything to look forward to. And it is completely dismissive of a lot of hard work that great candidates are doing. Not every single candidate is, if you were to sort of transpose every local election or so and make it a 2016 presidential election of a Trump versus a Hillary or something like that. That's not indicative of all these different elections that we see. So I find that just extremely spurious. In regards to sort of how we can curtail this is we as Americans need to get serious, and we've really got to start paying attention. That's what it comes down to. You know, back when you and I were sharing an office together at that little mouse company and all, when I was a wide-eyed mid 20-year-old, basically, and I would just beat the drum of, hey, right, are you checking out the primaries, right? Do you know what's happening? We really need everybody to be saying that. Now, how do we get there? I think that comes down to people being aware and paying attention of what's going on in the community. I mean, there's a lot of signs that you can see. Maybe the candidates need to make them more colorful or more intriguing or something like that. But I think that it's incumbent upon us as a population to start paying attention. These numbers are absolutely paltry and pathetic. It says so many damning things about us as a society.
Well, no, I mean, I hate to say it, but I actually do agree with you that.
Well, as you should. You finally came around. Yeah, you look. That's the smartest thing you've said this whole show. Is I agree with you. All right, I've been right the whole time.
Let's not to a point. I think part of the problem is nobody likes to see negative attack ads.
Yes, you do. Oh my Lord,
That's all we see. So all we know is the worst things about people. We don't know what anybody stands for. We just know what people have done that is, in their past that has been shady, and, a bunch of, I don't know what their platforms are. That's not the information that's being broadcast to me. And let's be honest, when it comes to politics, I'm a bit, I think the term is lazy. And I need to be
you voted for Kerry, so I don't blame you.
Stuff.
Yeah, you voted for Kerry, so we know you like uninspired choices.
I'm just saying that, there needs to be a way to be able to get actual facts, not just, attack ads and negativity about every person, to be able to make an informed choice. And when all you see is negative, it's going to lead you to make a negative decision as well, which is, I'm not going to waste my time voting. It doesn't matter. All of those things stem from the darkness that is politics today.
Okay.
It just doesn't seem like, I hear anything positive that anybody stands for. And that makes it difficult for me to want to go cast a ballot when I don't know what anyone stands for. I just know bad things their competition did.
So basically your solution is that the negative attack ads stop, and that positive attack, there's no such thing as positive attack ads. Sorry, it's a gaffe on my part. So the negative attack ads need to stop, and that we need to see more positive information about the person that's actually running, basically.
I wouldn't say it has to be positive. Well, for one, I just think political ads should be done away with in the first place. If you're not giving me any information to know what you stand for, I really don't need to, to see a street corner covered in ads. That would be a start, and then maybe actually have people discuss the issues and what they actually plan to do, as opposed to just bombarding me with propaganda to get me to vote for, like I said, the lesser of the two evils, because everything I end up knowing about each candidate is just what they've done wrong.
Okay. So with that in mind, though, when you see a street sign or so with a listing of a bunch of facts and everything, do you drive slower and start to take a look at it more, or do you maintain?
No, I'm saying get rid of the street sign.
Okay, get rid of the street sign.
Ads.
Okay, then how are you going to learn how are you going to learn about people then?
How about the television actually informs someone, and they have a program that goes through and discusses those people, or I don't know, debates.
Okay, but debates happen. You live down there in Dana Rohrabacher's district, don't you, or something like that, or Ed Roy's?
I think it's Rohrabacher's district, and that guy is beyond awful.
Okay. Have you ever been to any of the debates of the opponents he's had, even in a presidential election or in a midterm election?
Have I been to? I've never been
or
to
watched
a debate.
Or listened. Sorry, not maybe. No, I'm not. Sorry, not necessarily gone to. Right, but listened or watched one.
No, I did not know where that information would be. Did not know that if they were broadcast anywhere. Like I said, I'm lazy, so I'm not going to go and try and hunt the information down. I need to be spoon-fed facts and only facts so I can make an educated decision.
Okay, yeah. The only reason I bring that up is I think there's a lot. If you get rid of the ads, right, and we have to go to TV. Number one, TV's gonna cost a ton. And look, you mentioned a few different times about certain people being boring and not carrying box office draws, if you will. I think that voters take that approach as well. So if there are spoon-fed facts, there's a reason why people know who Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity are, as opposed to Bob Woodward or anyone over at NPR. We are attracted to the sensationalism, right? If they're like, you can say that you want to be spoon-fed facts on the TV, which would take us like 200 years to get to. So, all right, we don't have that time for a revolution. I want to see these numbers increase in my lifetime. But no one's gonna. Yeah, that's if that's happening.
Make an app then.
Okay.
Make an app. Find some way to get me some information that isn't just me being bombarded with ads.
Okay.
Something that is, as television viewership declines, those ads become less and less relevant anyway. When I see a bunch of colorful signs, all I see are the pretty colors. I'm not reading what the names are. I don't care. They need to find a way to provide the information to me in a way that will allow me to make a decision based on what they stand for as a politician. And quite honestly, maybe have some stronger screening on who could be a politician. Some of these people shouldn't even be allowed to run.
Like Mitt Romney, your hero. So, look. I think that what you said there, that last part particularly has legs. I'd hate, hopefully we're not advocating that we make a bunch of people ineligible and everything, but I definitely think that a screening would be better. I do know that you have something you want to talk to us about. All right, heavily statistical based and heavily factual based. Go ahead with it.
Oh yes. So a new study was released finding that a large majority of the population dislike political correctness. Hidden Tribes, a report by Stephen Hawkins, Miriam Juan Torres, and Tim Dixon finds that 80% of the people find political correctness as a problem in our society. Furthermore, 80% under the age of 24, 75% in their mid to late 20s, 82% of Asians, 85% of Latinos, and 88% of Native Americans are most likely opposed to political correctness, while African Americans are more likely to support it. Do we need to re-examine this PC culture.
We absolutely do. Number one, I'd love to come on here and be able to say everything that was on my mind. I'd stutter a lot less, and being able to do that without somebody necessarily misconstruing what is said, I think that would be huge. And then furthermore than that is just the fact that, you know, like the way that political correctness came and went from, like, you couldn't mention anything about someone's race, religion, like et cetera, right? Like it started to evolve from, okay, Archie Bunkers, we shouldn't be able to do that, right, on primetime television, right? Now to the fact that they have, what's this term, microaggression, right? Like, are you kidding me? Like, one of the more anachronistic things I've ever heard. But yeah, it's came to.
Hold on, this is a microaggression right now. I need to get into my safe space before you continue. Okay, I'm there.
Yeah, like this is. I think like political correctness just came to really embody. Don't inspire the enmity of anyone that is extremely sensitive, basically. When you look at sort of these numbers, like it is touching to see, like, I understand that this is a small subset of the population that they chose at random, right? But it is good to see that we have 80% and higher people that think that's an issue. And certainly I don't want to go into a space where we can just sort of insult people just randomly. But I think that we need to look at sort of, okay, how like, are we going to be babies about things? Like, I understand, like, I don't want to be the kind of person that, back in my day, we did this and all, right? But when I was coming up, it was just like, you don't say anything with ill intent towards somebody, right? And you don't attack, sort of like I said, those protective classes. Now it's just become, all right, if somebody's like, just had they always have a little bit much more to eat, right? You need to be sensitive of that, right? You have euphemisms heavy on everything, right? Where it's like, hey, you can't call someone old, you need to call them elderly and everything, right? Even to like some workplaces, you can't even like describe somebody like, oh, well, he was, if you were to look at like a sheet of paper, he was darker than that. And you can't, because you can't say black, right? That's a bit of an issue, right? And then you got things like, what do you call it? These terms like, white splaining and stuff like that. And it's like, come on, like, really?
Well, this whole thing, I'm actually surprised that the numbers are this low. I feel like nobody likes political correctness when they're at home, but when they leave their house, all of a sudden they're on board and they're going to call out things that really didn't bother them, but they just want to feel righteous and that they're on the right side of a cause, even though it's about as fake as can be. I dare to say that the majority of the people that oppose political correctness are not at all politically correct at home. This whole thing has just gotten out of control, and you should just treat people, like you want to be treated. Don't be rude. And if there's no ill intent in the words that are being said, context is a large part of it, and intent. Yeah. And, those two things, I don't think they factor in anymore. Yeah. It's just people that are immediately saying that they're offended. And it's funny that, in an age where bullying is frowned upon, all of the people that hate political correctness end up attacking, or all the people that are politically correct end up attacking those that are not as politically correct and doing a lot of the behaviors that they supposedly don't even like as retaliatory behavior. The whole thing is, the only thing I found interesting, besides that the numbers were while high, are still lower than I actually truthfully believe they are. But it seems like members in your community are extremely supportive of it. And I don't understand how that can be, given, for example, Kanye, when he was meeting with Trump, he was dropping MFers on there. That's not exactly the most politically correct thing to do. That's offensive to a lot of people. How is it that I don't understand why it basically says everybody else but the African American community is opposed to political correctness?
Yeah,
what's your take on that?
That part is extremely interesting because I mean, sort of how, like, when I talk to family members and everything, there's not like a lot of PC. They're respectful and everything, but what you would consider PC is not necessarily occurring because every single topic is on the table, like every single topic. So I find that interesting. I wonder who they must have polled, right? Like maybe they, the reference I was going to make wasn't really PC, so I'll go ahead and drop that. Right?
That part of the study makes no sense. I mean, even when your reference is not PC.
Yeah. So yeah, I find that, and I guess I can see if depending on what kind of questions they ask, right? Mostly. Throughout the general history of the United States, I'll say that usually the people that are going to be disregarded the most are going to be African Americans, and those that will have the most things. Like dog whistle is a thing, right? Which I hate more than anything, right? It's like, hey, don't dog whistle, just absolutely say it. And if it's like it's that offensive, right, that you have to use a dog whistle or so, you probably shouldn't be saying it, right? But like when you say things like, like welfare queens, like Ronald Reagan used to say, right, I guess that's sort of the euphemistic way to talk about black folks and things like that, right? So throughout history, sort of the non-PC things were typically said about black people. So maybe they polled some that are sort of used to that. But I will say that those numbers are completely surprising. Particularly that statistic, rather.
Well, the other thing I found interesting about it, that if you want to say the most disenfranchised groups are the ones that are more likely to support it, the people that least support it are Native Americans, who by all accounts really have the biggest grievance since everything was taken from them. And they're at 88%.
Yeah, that is. Like, I can't comment because I don't know that many Native Americans and haven't spent too much time within the community. But the interesting dichotomy between the two, if you would say most disenfranchised groups, sort of throughout world history, I guess, if you will, or at least sort of in Western Hemisphere history, or so that dichotomy is absolutely interesting. Now we do have to move on because we got a great topic that I wanted to bring up. All right, we got a new movie coming out, Ryan Gosling and everything, but it has caught some ire. So basically, some conservatives, particularly Marco Rubio, are lashing out at Damien Chazelle and Ryan Gosling for not including the flag planting scene in their movie First Man, which opens up. You guys should all check it out. Basically, Ryan Gosling has defended the exclusion by stating that the landing was a human achievement and that Neil Armstrong was extremely humble and deferred the achievements to all of those who made that mission possible. Do you think that sort of the backlash that the conservatives have in regards to that omission of that scene, does that have any legs?
Okay, those legs are about as long as Marco Rubio is tall. There is absolutely no reason for there to be any backlash. And let me just first off say, I'm not a fan of Damien Gazelle or Chazelle or Chevelle or whatever you want to call him. I don't think his movies are overly good. I think La La Land was one of the most overrated films ever. Whiplash was watchable, but nothing I would see a second time. So I'm not in his corner. Gosling has made some good choices and some bad choices, but
more bad choices. Like everything after Remember the Titans.
Okay, so regardless of your personal feelings on Gosling, let's just say they're both awful, Gosling and Chazelle. The fact of the matter is, I was looking at this movie, and The thing that really stood out to me is that the title of the film is called First Man. It's not called First Flag. At no point does it need to show the American flag. There's no point to it. It's about the achievement of landing on the moon. That's the point. I haven't seen the film, so I don't know if they're playing golf on there, if they're jumping around, if they're riding around in a moon rover. I don't really care. As far as I'm concerned, the moment they step on the moon, the film can be over, because that's what I'm there to watch, is how they went from not being able to go to how you're able to go. Marco Rubio is a fool. I think he's shown that in all of his the culmination of all of the failures that he continues to have, and his track record of failure. He's consistently on the wrong side of everything, not just after the fact, but before and during. So I really don't know what his deal is with this, except that, the only time I say Rubio is when I'm going to buy a taco at Rubio's Grill. Outside of that, I don't think of the guy because he's irrelevant. And this is the first time I've even heard his name in a while, and it's for something stupid, which is par for the course for little Marco.
All right, so there's quite a few things to unpack. So I can see very slightly like this much of sort of the argument or so. It's like, yeah, it was like there was a space race that occurred, obviously, which took us to the Apollo programs and the Gemini programs, right? But really everything culminating with the Apollo program. That it was basically, America versus the Soviets. Call it what you will, right? It was America versus the Soviets. So I can understand from a jingoism aspect wanting that, but I think that this is like Marco's thought here is just pretty myopic, and any conservatives that are getting freaked out about this, like, come on, like yes, it's our flag. Our flag is up there. Nobody's under any guise that our flag is not up there, and that no one's under the guise that it wasn't NASA that first landed a person on the moon. So in regards to like wanting to see that, like it's sort of like it's like, hey, that movie doesn't have enough gore, blah blah blah. I really wanted to see how his heart fell out of his body and stuff like that after getting stabbed, right? Like, come on, Marco. It's first of all, why is he commenting on a movie anyway? Like, no one's under the guise that he likes good movies, right? Like, if he went and saw this makes me not want to see this movie also, okay? But the fact that I'd have his support, and I believe him a little bit more if he had an issue with a Canadian like Ryan Gosling playing Neil Armstrong and all, then there may be some legs, right? But come on, that there's one scene in the, like, what?
No, you can have last time also, it's not cosmonaut, astronaut, Canuckanaut. It is First Man, about an astronaut from the U.S. When you are looking at there not being an American flag, and it's a great point you brought up about Gosling being Canadian, because that is about as relevant as the flag being shown in this story. Yeah. And if we need a movie to teach us that there's a flag on the moon, then we have a bigger problem that goes deeper into education and, other things that are not allowing people to know a basic fact. Right now, I need to see the flag as much as I need to see Marco Rubio, and that's not at all.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's like, if like Damien had gone and said, hey, you know what? Let's not like mention that he works at NASA, right? And just go like, oh, work at Space Company, right? And Space Company put people on there. That would be a legit gripe, right? What I'm offended and uproar about is that someone like Marco Rubio, who wants to promote all this jingoism, had a really great chance to do that when he never decided to serve in the military, which would be a great chance that would help him get the qualifications to go to NASA, and then he can go and put any type of flag up there he wants, right? So he needs to stop with this false jingoism. Maybe he's trying to rile up support and everything like that for another failed presidential run, or like not pass any bills or anything like that, or just woefully become unsuccessful at life. Look, whatever that. But yeah, this is just ridiculous. Other things, like if he wants to talk about how there's an affront to American values and achievements, perhaps he could have gone out there and called out the president when he went in front of the international community, in front of Vladimir Putin, went and threw the great U.S. Intelligence community under the bus. That would have been a great chance for him to contend with the fact that American values and the flag was not being respected and supported.
Oh, he's soft. And more importantly, why is Rubio spending the time to talk about a movie instead of trying to do something about the disaster in Florida? Shouldn't that be a more pressing issue for him?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're using your time to call out a film, you've got bigger problems. Well, I guess that's the only thing big about Marco. Our problem.
All right. Well, right on. Well, that is all the time that we have today, man. Chris, thanks for such a great debate, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It pains me to say that I've agreed with you on an issue, and
you should be happy. You're finally right for once.
Slightly. All right, well, thank you for having me. It was great to be here.
Awesome, man. Great having you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll we'll see you next week for the last retort. Adios.
Yeah.